Hey, welcome to Dan's Model Works. And we are back with this. This is part 3 of the Sabrejet, the Sabre Dog. That's the F-86D, and it's the version that had the large search radar in the nose and a chin inlet, and it was didn't have any machine guns or anything like that. Had a bunch of Mighty Mouse rockets fitted, and this kit was produced by Entex, and they're not the originators of the kit. There was actually a fairly long history behind this kit, and if you want to know more about the history of this kit, you can watch part 1. So let's get this box out of the way. And let's see where we got to. Well, this is where we got to. We have our forward fuselage assembled, and as you can see, we have a rudimentary office in place. And if you watched part 2, you'll know that I managed to lose my instrument panel, so I had to create one. Now mind you, the little hood for the radar, that is the kit part, and I had to do a little bit of scratch building and kit bashing to improve the seat. Not that the seat is going to win any contests, but it looks a heck of a lot better than it did. And as well as that, we have the radar, and since the nose was a pretty good fit, I decided that I was going to be having the nose removable so you can take a look at the radar. Don't know how accurate the radar is, but at least it's there. So, oh, and by the way, there is a real big, huge blob of weight in the nose, so we shouldn't have any tail sitting with this one. So one of the first things I think we're going to be doing this time around is we're going to be gluing this on, and I think we're going to have to do a little bit of rubbing down of the fuselage to make sure that we've got a good join here. Otherwise we're going to end up with a bit of a step, and we don't want that. For some reason or other, this always makes me think that there should be a propeller on the front. That's what it looks like. Looks like we should have a big honking propeller on this version. In this close-up, you can see how much filing was done around the nose here. Not a huge amount, but probably 0.5 millimeter all the way around. And then that will enable our very, very front nose piece here to fit on much smoother. Now, we're not looking for a perfect fit because this was a separate piece that was applied, but it should definitely be in the ballpark. So there is our nose piece glued on. And if I get the light just right, you can see that there's a join right there. You can see that's actually a fairly substantial gap. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to get some filler in there and see if I can pack that out so that it doesn't look quite so rough. Now, if we look in the mouth here, you can see the putty that I put in there. And I'm probably going to do one more application because there's a little bit of a low area still here that needs to be filled. But it is a lot less noticeable than it was. I mean, ideally we want that to look nice and smooth going in. Okay, this is the 5th time I've recorded this, and each time I've recorded it, I've looked inside the inlet through the camera lens, the camera screen actually, and not been happy with what I've seen. So there's still a little bit of a flaw about 3/8 of an inch back. There's a little bit of one there, but if you look at what we had, which was just basically like a deep trench running right around here, it's substantially smoother than it was. Now I'm going to be painting black all inside there, and then when I paint the overall plain silver, I'm counting on a little bit of the silver getting about a quarter of the way in and then feathering off to a dark color, which is the effect that we're going to want because, you know, there's nothing really back there other than a duct kind of curving off into the distance. So I'm going to leave this at that. I think it's a many-fold improvement over what we did have, which was a visible join between this ring here and the duct inside. Now it looks like it's all one piece. So this kit abounds with all kinds of toy-like features, one of which is the way that the stabilizers fit on the back here. It's designed in such a way that you can pivot it once you put it together. I'm probably just going to be gluing it in place, but it is interesting to note that sort of thing. Among the interesting idiosyncrasies of this kit is the vertical fin, in that it glues together two halves and then it just kind of sits on top of the rear fuselage like this. So it's a little bit different from what we're used to. Normally your tail is part of your fuselage sides. You can see there's some putty here and there. I think just because of the size of the part, there was some shrinkage right there, so that's just going to be sanded down. There's nothing too critical there. That's not going to be the end of the world. The vertical fin is now on, and the fit it's okay. Not fantastic, but not terrible either. I might do a little bit of rubbing down right there and there. And I will admit to really screwing up here. As you can see, the rear fuselage just kind of plugs in, and it's a substantial plug that goes in there. And unfortunately, it was a little too wide. There was no way that was going in there. So what I did, and I mean, I wasn't doing this so that I could have a removable rear fuselage. I was just doing it so I could easily plug it in and away you go. So I was filing this lip here so that I could reduce the diameter. And while I was doing that, I had a couple of the kids just over there talking to me, and I'm yakking away, just filing away, and not really paying attention to what I'm doing. And what I ended up doing was, instead of taking all the material from the width, I knocked a little bit of it back. So when I put this on, you can see that the fit is not quite as tight as you'd like it to be. So I think I might end up putting a little bit of white glue in there as a filler just to make it less obvious. But of course that'll mean that the rear fuselage is no longer removable, but I don't think that's a big deal. I wasn't planning on playing with this. So sometimes you need just a few extra things to hold something together. Actually, the wing fit is not as tragic as it looks. It's just there was a lot of bits to really kind of hold together, so there we go. There's our wings all glued together, and plus a giant thumbprint in the glue, which fortunately will not show. And the slats are actually designed on this model in such a way that you can push them in and out, just part of the everything must move on this model philosophy. Well, I'm just going to trim off the back piece and I'm going to mount them in there solid. I'm going to basically display this clean. So now that I've got my wing together, we can see just what kind of a fit we have here, or a non-fit. If we plop it in place here, and this opening here is where the Mighty Mouse rockets, the tray that holds those, pops out. So this is not too bad. This is certainly livable. On the other hand, when we come to the back, whoa, that's not even close. And if we look at the side, you can see there's a gap here, and then it's hard up against that. So I'm hoping that if I rub down there and there, we can achieve a fit that we can fix using putty without too much difficulty. This shot shows how much work was required to get the slats suitable for mounting. As you can see, you've got this rail running along the back here, and then you've got these bars going in, and that's all part of the let's make it operable. But trying to get that to function smoothly and fit in there really tight, I don't think it's going to be too possible. So I lopped all that off, and I cleaned up all of the huge ejector pin marks, as you can see right there. That's all going to be cleaned up before you can get a decent fit. I suppose you could choose to have it fixed in the outer position, in which case you would just leave the perpendicular pieces there, but there's really no point in leaving this line right here. Well, I'm going to be putting some white glue in this seam here and here in order just to lessen the visual impact of it, because it should fit tighter than it does. It did take an awful lot of work to get it to sit in there as flush as it did. The rear flaps and ailerons, interestingly enough, are supposed to be put in before you assemble the wing halves so that they get trapped. Now, you know darn well that would end up, the glue would get all over them and they wouldn't be movable. I wasn't even really concerned about that. I just figured, you know what, I'll just glue them in after I get the wing together. Lo and behold, they snapped in place really easy and are fully movable. Now I'm going to freeze them in place with some glue, but it's kind of funny how by putting it together in such a way that I wasn't concerned with the moving, I ended up with nicely movable flaps and ailerons. Whereas probably if I had tried to do them the way they said to, they would have ended up being frozen in place, and it would have been one more thing to worry about being aligned. There we go. Opportunity lost. I froze them all in basically a dead flat neutral position. I was briefly tempted to deflect the flaps down just to give a little more animation. Then I thought, I don't know if these are independently operated from the slats. There are a lot of aircraft where as soon as you put the flaps down, your slats come out. So I figured, you know what, since I don't know, I'm just going to leave everything in a neutral position. And I think it looks fine. The wing is now glued on, and what will follow is quite a bit of filling and sanding and things that will take so long so as to delay this video far beyond what I want it to be uploaded by. We still need to glue the tail section on, but basically all of the big pieces are glued in now, and it's all the little fiddly bits that have got to go on. So thanks for watching this episode of Dan's Model Works, and until next time, just keep on modeling.